Hey friends, it's Kirsten. Welcome back to another video at the Twin Talks Ballet YouTube channel. Glad you're here. So, it has been a while since I talked about some different things you can expect if you are an aspiring professional dancer when you finally make that transition into the professional realm. So today, I thought I would bring that subject back up, and I want to equip those of you who are probably auditioning right now, or maybe you're a couple years out from auditioning and you're kind of weighing out the pros and cons of, should I go for it and become a professional dancer? Should I not? Why should I not? And it's kind of hard to know these things and to consider these factors if you haven't done this before. So, having been in a company myself, I'm going to break down 7 things that you should consider just to begin with if you are wanting to become a professional dancer before you fully decide to go all in on making that a reality. I would like to also pair some of these points with some tips on how to start preparing for that phase or that issue that commonly comes up in the professional world. I want you to start preparing for that now so that, like, if this is really your dream, this is really what you want to do, you are feeling confident that, dealing with this factor, whatever it is worth it, and you have some tools to deal with it head on. So here we go. So number 1, I've already talked about this before, but it's so significant, I really can't emphasize it enough. It is that as a student, many times we learn to be extrinsically motivated, which basically means you are motivated by outside forces and you're held accountable by other people to do certain things, to live up to your potential, to work hard as a dancer, to improve. When you get in a company, a lot of that extrinsic motivation, not all of it, but a lot of it goes away. You don't have teachers on your back all the time saying, work on this, work on this. They're not giving you a bunch of individual attention. Honestly, when you start in a company and you're, in the studio company, second company, trainee, you're an apprentice, for the first 1 or 2 years, you really have to make yourself a part of that company. You have to make yourself an asset. I'm going to be completely frank here. Currently, as the ballet industry is, dancers within the first 1, 2, 3, maybe even throughout their whole career, especially female dancers, are seen as replaceable, which is an extremely sad reality that I would love to see change. But for right now, this is what we're working with. So recognize that you have to make yourself irreplaceable to the company. You have to present yourself as an asset. Part of that is continuing to improve yourself. And simply what so many dancers are unprepared for when they transition from student to professional is they have to completely shift where they get their motivation from, how they, go about having a good work ethic, and how they push themselves to work hard every single day. You have to change where that motivation is coming from to come from the inside. You have to say, I want to work hard for myself. I want to look in the mirror and see, okay, here's a strength I have. I want to make it better. Here's a weakness I think I have. I want to make that better. You have to start being your own accountability buddy. That's like my favorite word. You have to also start being your own best teacher. Now, of course, you can have some peers in your school or in your company where you ask them, like maybe a really good friend, and say like, hey, can you watch me dance? Can you notice some things that I'm actually like pretty good at, and maybe give me some pointers on how to make it better? And then can you also give me kind of like a feedback sandwich, positive reinforcement, something that is a stretch that I could work on, that's kind of a weakness right now, and then some more positive reinforcement. That's a great way to keep a friendship going while also kind of pushing each other to keep going forward. So I'd say that's a really good tip for kind of bridging into that need for intrinsic motivation, because it doesn't come naturally to all of us. And lastly, my tip for this is remember that you are in charge of your results. No one else. No one else is even responsible for telling you what you should do in the company. Like, you're really going to get there and you're going to be expected to kind of assume what you should be doing better, know how things work, even if you don't, and just constantly apply yourself as if you're getting corrections when you're not. So you have to remember to absolutely take charge and responsibility for the results you're getting, the work you're putting in. And if you're not getting the parts or the results you want, Instead of being quick to be upset and to blame, consider what could you have done better, and just take that feedback, go for it, make it better. Point number 2, we got to talk about the money. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you don't already know, or you haven't watched my old video from 2017 about like how much money do dancers make, got so many views and comments on that one. It's worth a watch though, I think. So if you haven't already watched that, I will say here and now, most dancers in the United States who work in a small to medium-sized ballet company, for the first 1, 2, perhaps even 3 years, there is a good chance that you will either be paid no money, you will get no money and maybe your shoes paid for, or you will get your shoes paid for and a small stipend that, like, maybe if you're lucky, covers your rent. That's kind of how it goes right now. So almost everyone has outside work. And if you don't have outside work, you need parents, a guardian, someone who's going to support you. That is how it goes. Now, I know a lot of dancers who make this work with their parents, even though understandably a lot of parents want their kids to like be building a future that's a little bit more secure for themselves. Totally get that. Totally get that. But what I've seen is, for me, when I got my college degree, that is something that really satisfied my parents and really helped them to embrace supporting me emotionally and financially, because they knew no matter what, no matter how long this dance thing lasted, they knew I was gonna make things work in my life. And so whatever it took to help me get to that place, we all decided as a family that since my parents were able to support me, they were gonna do that. I'm like beyond grateful for that. Not everyone is so fortunate. I was very privileged in that way, though I want to make it clear, I did work outside of dance. Some families, they're just like, don't work at all, just dance. That's fine too. There's like no shame in that. It's all about what you agree upon with your family. Some dancers, I do know of some dancers, it's like I almost don't know how they do it. They would get jobs like at a nice steakhouse restaurant and work all weekend, work every night. They would exhaust themselves, but they made it work. They supported themselves financially. And though I didn't do that, like, it is possible. And so I've seen dancers do that through the unpaid period. And then even once you get into the company though, if you do, because the first 1 or 2 years is like really, it's like a year or two long audition process. That's kind of how it goes. Like, you're still seen as new. The directors usually are not attached to keeping you there. They might not even know your name. Like, that's just how it goes sometimes, quite frankly. But you might even, once you get a paid contract, you're probably still going to need to supplement your income unless you're in a really large company. And of course, there are definitely exceptions to what I'm saying. There are some freelancers who even make it, though freelancers, like, you have to be a very specific kind of very driven, talented person to make freelancing work as your full-time job and like really make money from that and do okay. It's hard, it's possible, but it's really hard. But even when you do get into a main company, at least in the US, probably in other countries as well, you're still going to need to have outside work. And that's just a part of the life. If you want to do this, dancing has to be that worth it for you. So just be prepared for that. Number 3, you need to know that the absolute best way, in my opinion, from what I've seen across the board in different companies, schools, all that, the best way to advance yourself and to probably get the director's attention and secure a spot in the company is to be the kind of dancer who can go into anyone's spot at any given time. Be that volunteer understudy. Be the one who's just like, I can go in for an injured dancer on stage at any given moment. That is how you get noticed. That is how you get the brownie points, people. And it takes a lot of intelligence, it takes a lot of confidence and boldness and courage to do that. So if you are like I used to be, and I was really uncomfortable with doing this, I always wanted to just make sure I didn't make mistakes in front of anybody. But you can't be so afraid of making mistakes that you are like the last person to raise your hand to step into an understudy position. You just have to trust yourself and go out there and go for it and know what you're doing. Like, really don't raise your hand if you don't know what you're doing. That's an awful idea and it's probably going to work against you. So the whole thing is, work right now in your training, wherever you are. If you're already a professional and you just want to advance, work on being that kind of dancer who always knows the choreography and who is super reliable and always just ready to raise your hand and step into whomever's role. That is how I've seen people get surprise contracts out of nowhere, how I've seen them get noticed. Like, usually just about any dancer in the company is technically competent. They're pretty good. But the kind of employee the directors are looking for is the kind of person who's great to work with, super reliable, confident, and just like a person that transmits that trust to where they're not only beautiful to watch, but the director's like, okay, I know I can trust this girl or this guy to do whatever we need them to do. For a little more guidance, if you want to know how to start preparing yourself for that in your school or wherever you are right now, start putting yourself in positions where you're kind of uncomfortable. You know, you raise your hand to go first in variations class, or, you know, you just start practicing learning other people's parts, or you volunteer to go to someone else's rehearsal that you're not called to. You know, just start putting yourself in that situation where you feel pressure to learn fast, and then you step up to the plate and deliver under that pressure. Number 4, this one pains me to say, but unfortunately, just like in some ballet schools, but especially in companies, a lot of dancers feel pressure to hide their injuries if they are hurting because, like I said, especially in that first 1 to 2, even 3-year initial period of your career in a company, you're still kind of seen as like you're kind of there on trial a little bit. And so it's really important to stay healthy as much as you can. I'm not saying like if you get injured, you're instantly dead to them, but oftentimes it does happen. Honestly, guys, kind of happened to me because even though I was doing pretty well in my company, I wasn't like the top star favorite out of the apprentice group or whatever, but you know, I had a pretty decent reputation. Things were going just fine. And then I decided, you know, oh my gosh, I have to hide my injury. This goes into the second part of my point here. If you do have an injury, which I definitely did, you have to know when to just push through, which is like sometimes you know you're going to be in pain, but it's the kind of pain where it's like you're hurting, but you know you're probably going to be okay. You can push through that for a short amount of time. Here's where you need to really be careful. Even though it's really important to stay applied at the job, don't look injured, don't look, you know, like if you start to give the director the impression that you're always going to be injured and they're worried about you, that's when they're probably going to be looking for someone else. And I hate that that's super discouraging. Some of you guys might be injured, and that's really, really hard to hear. That's also why I made the Come Back Stronger course, my online recovery support program. So I will link that down below. You've probably heard me talk about it before. And if you haven't, click the link down below. That course was created to help dancers like you make a strong recovery. So anyway, here's the thing. If you push too hard though through your injury and try too hard to cover it for too long, you're going to make your injury so bad, like I did, to the point where then you have to take a lot of the season off. And at that point, like I started the season really injured, and that really affected the way I was seen by the artistic staff. I was always seen as like injured or recovering or something like that. And it was really going to be hard to come back from that. Like I actually couldn't. That's why I stopped. If there's anything to learn from me, it's that preventative care is everything. Start taking care of your bodies really, really well right now. Injuries happen to almost everyone. It's normal. It's not like if you have one injury, your life is over. So many dancers have injuries that are pretty bad, but they come back from it. Like almost every professional dancer has had an injury, but almost every one of them has either handled it really well or been lucky to where they're like pretty favored in their company and the directors want them to come back. You have to establish yourself as an asset, like I said, in order to kind of stick around after an injury. But here's the thing. So make sure that if you absolutely, you know, you're considering you've taken care of your body, you're strong, you're doing strength training, Pilates, all that stuff to keep your strength up, make your body resilient to injury. But if you are getting injured, preventative rest is everything. Preventative care is everything. If you need to take 1 week off to be better the next week, usually the staff will understand that. And even if they don't, you can come back after that and dance healthily and prove yourself again. Versus if you push yourself, you're going to be in pain, so you won't dance as well, and then you have a serious injury, so then you have to go out and heal for months, then it's going to be extra super hard to come back from that. So just be prepared to, handle injuries in that way and take care of your body. Point number 5, your focus has to shift from the student mentality of being technically perfect and perfect in like the way you look to being a good employee. Like I said earlier, trustworthy, reliable, confident, and also a good performer. Being a good performer is really important. And this has to do with my tip as well, which is to really cultivate your artistry right now. Find your strengths right now. I will include my PDF guide down below, free PDF guide. It's kind of like a journaling exercise to help you start to identify what your real strengths are as a dancer. You need to know these things and to start working them and, becoming an irreplaceable version of yourself. You have to really step into who are you as an artist, who are you as a dancer, and really own that for yourself, because when you get in a company, emotionally, you might start to feel replaceable. You might start to feel like you're just one of many and maybe not the best version of one of many. And so you have to start appreciating and showing what you have to offer so that you kind of transcend that trap of like feeling replaceable and being seen as replaceable. Number 6, I've talked about this before. Prepare to be tempted to let your work ethic slip. A lot of times when dancers get into a company, it's like this big life accomplishment. It's a huge achievement. You should be very happy and very proud. But I've seen so many dancers be like, I've made it. They stop cross-training. They get really lazy. They get entitled. They chill out. And their career basically ends after that, and they lose respect for themselves. And they wonder, why aren't I getting the parts? Why don't they want me back next season? Because you were lazy. That's what happened. And so I was talking earlier about keeping or cultivating that intrinsic motivation, which is so important to include in this point. So the whole thing is just don't assume that you'll get into a company and still like want to work really, really, really hard. You can probably trust yourself to do that, but just be aware that even dancers with that intention will become tempted to kind of just chill and kind of just settle and be like good with where they're at. Now, here's the tip. It is possible, and remember that this is possible, to be content and happy and celebrating what you have achieved while also pursuing more. And it's not more out of a place of inadequacy or like, I just have to get more to be happy. It's just that you love what you do. You always love to keep growing. And so you can celebrate where you're at and say, okay, today I become an even better version of myself. That's the kind of mentality you have to have in a company. Point number 7. This is the last and the best, I think, because it is the most underrated. Confidence really sells. Confidence really sells. Let that sink in. Confidence is that emotional force that gives you the strength and the courage to like put yourself out there. Raise your hand to step into that understudy position. When you are in a confident state of mind, you're naturally not going to be suffering so much from that like mental chatter from your inner critic saying like, you're not good enough. Can you do this? When you have all that chatter going on, you're going to be so distracted you can't even learn the steps. You're going to be so distracted that you can't even dance your best. You're not going to be present and like pleasant to watch as an artist. Confidence is that force that gives you the mental, not only the courage to go out there, but the mental space to focus, to say, I can do this, and raise your hand and step into that part. It gives you that radiance as an artist too, where it's like this radiance, this energy that transmits trust between the artistic director and you. If you trust yourself and you have that confidence, you are going to transmit the feeling that, this dancer is trustworthy. I can trust them to do well. I can trust them with new responsibilities, new opportunities. I can trust them if I push them to see if they can step into their potential a little bit more. You absolutely must be trustworthy, and that starts with establishing confidence in yourself. This is also the number one thing I see dancers struggle with, and it's so understandable. And that's why mindset is so important. mindset coaching is what I do, and I'm all about helping dancers shift their mindset, let go of limiting beliefs and decisions from the past that maybe they decided when they're 12, I'm not good enough because their teacher made them feel like they're not good enough. I help dancers let go of that stuff, all that mental baggage, the emotional baggage, and so that they can really step into an authentic, steady sense of, I like who I am and I like my dancing and I'm proud of it and I enjoy dancing. That kind of confidence that makes you fun to watch and a great dancer to work with. So if you are in the audition process, if you are a couple years out from the audition process, if you're already a professional dancer, it doesn't matter. It's never too late to step into your highest level of confidence and to really enjoy the benefits of that. So if that's you, if you want to really increase your confidence, which I cannot recommend enough, I can't wait for some of you guys to see the power of that shift. So if that's you, reach out to me. All you have to do is click the link down below to kirstenkemp.com, my website, where you could learn about my mindset coaching services and schedule a free consultation. That's just really a conversation you and I can have to really get to the root of what is holding you back and what are your personal next best steps going forward, even if it's not working with me. No strings attached conversation that's all about helping you get to the place you want to be. So can't wait to talk to some of you guys, and I will see you in the next video.